Hey everyone, this is Noah from Critique Quest. In today's Spotlight on Soundtracks video, I want to share with you my top 20 video game tracks in no particular order. This may change over time, so I have technically dated it, but I also want this video to be a tag. I know this is aging me a bit, but I miss tag videos, so I'm doing one. That being said, I tag all of you. Now you don't have to pick a top 20, I just did that because I have too many favourites and are clearly very indecisive. I really want to hear your picks, the songs that impact you the most, or the tracks that you love just because you love them. I'm really interested, so please join in if you want to. This theme is my favourite thing about the Mafia II score, hands down. It's a change of pace, it's quite dramatic and classic sounding. There's sadness to it and the kind of scope reserved for big adventures ending in tragedy. Now, when compared to the rest of the score, which is quite risky sounding, the menu theme is unexpectedly contemplative and broody. I'd leave the menu up just to hear this music, and thankfully it reprises at the end of the game. I'm specifically mentioning the Kingdom Hearts 2 version here. It's not that I didn't love the original Dearly Beloved, but there's something about the sequel rendition, the subtle orchestra in the background, the delicate sound. It is gentler overall, and carries with it a kind of purity that perfectly represents the friendships formed in this story. I still think that the original Tomb Raider theme is gorgeous. This might partly be down to nostalgia because Tomb Raider was one of the first games I played on the PlayStation 1, but it was and still is really intriguing to me because the melody never seemed to represent Lara Croft, a gutsy, strong, thrill-seeking adventurer, but the manner and the affluent world into which she was born. This still strikes me as quite unusual. This song, used in the cinematic trailer, is the reason I obsessed over Rule of Rose for so long. Love Suicide is very dark. It's dripping in sorrow and pain, but it's also incredibly soulful. I mean, the voice is practically reaching out to you for comfort or solace, and yet you can't quite trust it. There's menace below the surface. On a base level, it's smooth and mournful to the ear. Lyrically, it tells a story that reflects the twisted tale within the game, beautiful and smart.
I can be so mean, you can beat me. I would like to shame you, I would like to blame you.
I wanted only one track from Final Fantasy on this list, and it was a close tie between this one, Two's Anakin, One Winged Angel from Final Fantasy VII, or You're Not Alone from Final Fantasy IX. I realised, however, that Two's Anakin made much more of an emotional impact on me. Again, this track tells a story and sets you up for the emotional rollercoaster ride ahead. I would also recommend watching the Tour de Japan live version of this song, which I will link in the description. It's heartbreaking stuff and classically beautiful. Most of you will be wondering why I've picked Creation from Mass Effect 3 and not Suicide Run from Mass Effect 2 or M4 Part 2 by the Faunts. For some reason, this is the track that wound up being the most played song in my iTunes library. I'm not kidding. And I'm not entirely surprised, as I feel that this theme is a lot subtler, a lot more mature in comparison to the previous scores. There are these thrumming beats and heavily artificial sounds folded into a perilous, open musicscape, yet it retains a level of intimacy. It also sounds quintessentially Mass Effectian, which always makes me feel good inside. Promise is lovely, but the theme of Laura gets me every time. It doesn't have that hollow, cold feel of other tracks in the score, but nevertheless uses a lot of the sounds that have become synonymous with it, so Theme of Laura doesn't feel entirely out of place. I love it so much because the melody is simple. I mean, it works as a standalone piece, a bit like a theme to a TV show. I talked at length about how amazing I think the Remember Me score is in my review for the game. Nil and the Memory Hunter was the first track I ever heard and is, to this day, one of my favourite tracks of all time. It remixes a straight-up orchestral piece around this synthetic sort of noise that's so unique. I think it's fair to say I haven't heard anything like it before or since. This track is a flighty, multifaceted, confident piece that punches you in the gut with epic. Twin Twang features during one of my favourite playable sequences in Heavenly Sword, and also one of the most difficult, which is probably why this piece is so memorable for me. But it also perfectly represents said sequence. I like the slow build, the layering of sounds as the track progresses. I like the drums, like an underlying heartbeat, the snaking sort of melody and eerie voices. Every sound and instrument culminates in an entrancing, deadly theme. I wanted to include all of the tracks from the Heavy Rain score. However, Painful Memories is so simple in its execution that I felt it unfair not to focus on it. Because this piece is so quiet and isolated, but desperate in some way, like it's having to run to keep up. So it perfectly details the dynamic between Ethan and his last living son, Sean. It saddens me greatly to know that we've lost the composer. The score to this forgotten game is so underrated it kills me. Bluebird is a powerhouse of a track, a force to be reckoned with. It has the most visceral, guttural sound. The shrill calls and deep chants crossed with these pounding drums make it sound more like a ritual dance than a battle track. And I think the best thing about it, however, is the subtle manipulation of the male voices that transforms them into something hideous. I love Apotheosis for the same reason I love the score in its entirety. There's something awe-inspiring about the music and journey. It feels so much larger than yourself. It's as if you could apply it to any wonderful thing, the cosmos, the ocean, forces of nature, and it would fit because the score tells this universal, spiritual kind of story. The Last of Us score is world class, so you probably don't need me to tell you this. This track reminds me of a procession, a march of sorts. It sets a steady pace that carries on despite that twang of desolation nipping at its heels. It's briefly interrupted by a brighter kind of interlude that sounds almost sentimental, before marching on again into an immediate drum-heavy crescendo. I can't think of a better musical representation of this unforgettable game. I have praised the folk-like tracks from Dragon Age 2 before. Compared to the orchestral pieces, they're so rich. Fenris's theme might just be the best example of this. When I listen to this track on headphones, it just expands in my ears, which sounds ridiculous, but it's the best way I can think to describe it. It fills all the space around my head with layers upon layers of lavish sounds and melodies. It's like a long, detailed tapestry spanning the room. There are very few video game soundtracks that could be called spiritual. Journey is one, and Shadow of the Colossus is very certainly the other, and also the first of this kind, I think. Epilogue literally makes my heart cry. It's so wrenching, so stunning, so loaded that it is almost hard to hear without it getting to you. I mean, I'm tempted to say this track actually makes me feel a little bleak. Cohen's masterpiece is so exemplary in its representation of character and place. Now, I've seen many comments to this piece right here on YouTube from professionals, thumbing it down for lacking cohesion and flow, using it as an example of poor technique. That is until context is given and Sander Cohen has been introduced. Because what makes this track so great is that it acts as a window into Cohen's unsound mind. It's not only his idea of the creative, unfettered by critics or silenced by censorship, it could also be considered a literal rendition of Rapture, the fallen masterpiece. The music that plays when you enter Jensen's apartment is so melancholy you can't help but feel for this lonely guy. More importantly though, this track ties into the rest of the score's unique way of communicating the world of Deus Ex Human Revolution. The way that synthetic notes glimmer on top of these deep, moody bass tones highlights the superficiality of the world. And for as beautiful as it might be, there's something very dangerous hiding beneath it all. I was so very close to picking Tomahawk's Captain Midnight, but realised that Chinatown is actually my favourite, because it's a rare kind of track. It does something very distinctive, in that the music practically drives in and out of earshot. It moves with the wind, bringing with it not just the soft oriental sounds you'd expect from a piece called Chinatown, but an ominous kind of ambience too. It's as if wherever Jackie roams, so too does that threat of eternal darkness. Hell is around every corner, on every street, and you can feel it through this track. Origins theme is so impressive, so memorable. It lets you know from the get-go that you're about to embark on one epic fantasy journey. Though I would be lying if I told you I didn't pick this purely for the horn section. I mean, those trumpets, wow. It's the kind of warrior drum gut punch that I would expect from a movie. I love it so much, I missed it terribly in Inquisition despite the incredible score. Now that's true love. This song is in a similar vein to Love's Suicide in that it tells you the story of the game, Mirror's Edge. However, it's striking in the same way the visuals are. It uniquely details a sterile sort of world that hides a beating heart underneath it all, a living thing that longs to break free from its shackles.
I have changed, just like you, just like you. For how long? For how long?
So that was my list. There are a lot of tracks I missed out for fear of having to resort to making a top 50 or top 100 video game tracks video. It sounds ridiculous, but it was close. I could have quite easily mentioned the Persona 4 soundtrack, the Bastion soundtrack, the Contrast soundtrack, and now I'm starting to think I should make a part 2. But there you go. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please feel free to leave your picks in the comment section below and let me know if you film a video response so I can share it all over the interwebs. See you all in my next video, which will most likely be on Transistor, but who knows? Psst, you can join my Facebook community page and follow me on Twitter by following the links on the screen. Thank you. Bye.